All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Andres Yusma with Texture Group Avocado, and I'm happy to welcome you all to our Avocado User Group. The topic for today's roundtable is on Salesforce Flows and how it can be used to automate processes within your organization. Today's agenda includes a high-level overview of what Salesforce Flows are all about. We will talk briefly about TechShare's support and consulting services. We will then have our speakers go deeper into how they use flows to automate their business processes. And lastly, we will talk about Avocado and Salesforce Flows repository. And of course, we will have time at the end for a Q&A session. Just a friendly reminder to please mute your microphone throughout the presentation until the Q&A session at the end. And if you have a question while our speakers are presenting, please feel free to type it up in our chat, and our team will make sure to moderate accordingly. So what are Salesforce Flows? It is a very powerful tool that allows you to create, design, and manage interactive multi-step processes outside of the existing Avocado functionality. Flows also enable you to automate and streamline your business workflows without the need for complex coding or customizations. As always, we know that those flows can also be closely tied to Avocado. So if you need help in understanding how Avocado currently works or how to trigger these custom flows to accomplish your needs, by all means, call our support line. I would be happy to show you how the Avocado system currently operates. If you need help creating these custom flows within the platform, not a problem. Here at TechShare, we have Salesforce certified consulting services that allows us to help you with that. Additionally, you can learn to do it yourself through the use of trailheads. And in fact, we urge you to take these trailheads and learn how flows work. Any testing, of course, that you may require, please make sure that it is done in a sandbox environment and test your custom flows thoroughly. An incorrectly triggered flow can create serious problems to your existing Avocado system, and of course, we want to avoid that. We want to make sure you succeed with Avocado and use our system to its full potential. And any help with current functionality, please reach out to our support team through the channels that you see on screen. Remember that for any customizations, we do have Salesforce certified consulting services that you can engage through your account manager. So without further ado, we have today an amazing panel of speakers that will share with us their experiences using Salesforce and how they have been able to accelerate their internal processes and, of course, expand current Avocado functionality. We have Liz and Sarah, both of them with Greater Philadelphia YMCA, and from YMCA of Hamilton, Burlington, Brantford. Here on the Canadian side, we have Adam Brown, who is going to kick us off with today's roundtable. Adam?
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I hope that this is helpful for you. Two things maybe while I get my screen share going. One is that I'm currently sick. So I'm working from home and I'm staying safe. But if I pause, it's likely that I've muted my microphone so that I can cough. So your patience is appreciated. And second, while I'm the one presenting how we're using flows at HBB, I really don't deserve any of the credit. Most of these flows were built by the team here. So shout out to Ben and Josh and Pete and Sinjin who are online. It's a team effort for sure. So this presentation talks about Salesforce flows and automations. And, the overview is not anything you wouldn't expect. We're going to talk about how to get started. I want to talk a little bit about the design process and how we think about building flows. Take it from not just the Avocado team at HBB sitting in a back room doing interesting computer things, but how do we integrate flows into our operations in a sensible way? I'll provide you some pro tips, but I'm not a professional, so they're just semi-pro tips. I'm going to walk you through 5 examples of flows that we're using. I've tried to go from easiest to least easiest, so you can scaffold your learning a little bit. I'm certain that if you're using flows in your organizations, you've got cool things happening. So I wouldn't claim that these are like the only things that might be of interest. I will pass you to Liz for some flows from Philadelphia, and then there's some resources at the end. So Andres covered this at the beginning, but a flow can automate a process in Salesforce. So for example, you could ask Salesforce to send an email to a registered childcare family when their child turns 6. That might mean they are aging out of certain subsidies and we want to let the family know. Flows are simple to build. We have a principle that we think about at HBB, which is that we don't want automations to replace staff. That's not what we're in the business of doing. Instead, automations are designed to improve the customer experience and to save time for staff so that they can focus on serving people. Getting started with flows, Andreas was kind enough to show the exact trailheads that you might look at, but that's certainly where we learned most of our tricks. Google, YouTube, internet forums. The nice thing about the Salesforce architecture is that lots of people around the world are using it. And we have found lots of examples of business cases where someone on YouTube can walk us through how to build the flow we're trying to build. When you get this presentation, that link to Salesforce resources is not nothing special. It's just a document we keep of links to helpful YouTube channels, helpful blogs, things that we're looking at when we are trying to figure out how to do things. So design process for automations, or how do you go from, hey, we think we might need a flow, to having an automation in place that really serves the need of the customer, of the association, of your organization? It really starts with understanding the need, not just the need for the flow, but the need you're trying to achieve. You're trying to diagnose, what's your current state, what's missing in that, what could be added or streamlined. Phase 2 is the design, debug, and prototyping. So you should probably work in your sandbox to put all the pieces together, test it, see if it works. Demo and deliver. This is where we're presenting to operational teams saying, hey, we talked about an automation that could do this. Here's what we've come up with. Does this make sense? When would you like to turn it on? That moves us into monitoring and gathering feedback. And this is, I think, we do a good job of working hard on this part, which is once we turn a flow on, we want to stay pretty attentive to how's it working? How is it, if it's something that interacts with our customers, how does that look to the customer? And if it's something that's trying to make things easier for staff, is it making it easier? Is it hiding something that should be visible? Is it accomplishing what it needs to do? And continuing to develop and iterate. It's really common that we'll develop a flow and we'll turn it on and things will be working great. And 2 weeks later, we'll think of a way to make it better. So we'll just iterate and iterate and iterate. I think this model is useful because that design, debug, and prototype is me working by myself or with a small team and feeling very clever, at least when I'm successful. But it's the other part of the design process that I think is much more important. This is where working with operational teams to understand their needs and goals, understand their business processes, etc. I think this is the part that it would be really easy to overlook when you're fresh out of Trailhead and ready to jump in with flows. So I thought this model was helpful in pulling apart the pieces of the process and then differentiating between the piece you get to do by yourself at your screen versus the piece that requires change management and communication and compromise. So some semi-pro tips for you. Number 1 is to play in the sandbox. That's what it's for. Number 2 is to work with a buddy. Matthew let me know that this actually has a term, and I think you said it was called team programming.
Power programming, yeah. Extreme programming.
Nice.
It's an older term, though.
Fair enough. I find working with a buddy helps me not get frustrated. So I'll commonly call someone else on my team either for a sanity check. Hey, does this look right? Or I'm stuck and I'm tired of Googling myself. Can you Google with me? So working with a buddy I find is really, really helpful. Number 3 is to manage change. So new technology always brings new opportunities, but that can raise people's anxiety. So really work with operational teams to build trust and buy-in before activating the flow. It tends to work better in that order. Flows get better over time. So our flows are better today than 2020. Salesforce flows also have more functionality over time. So there are things that we can do now that we couldn't have done in 2020, even if we might have wanted to. Number 5 is to use custom fields in Salesforce to capture or to calculate information. So we use lots of formula fields to calculate information that we can use to trigger flows, and you'll get to see some of that. And number 6 is to restrict access. So we restrict access to flows by profile. So not anyone with a Salesforce license in our association can just open our flows menu and start playing. And then we have a policy that no one activates the flow without letting me know. They might have built it, they might be responsible for it, but we do try and have a common shared understanding of what's happening in our system. So flow number 1 that I'd like to show you is hyper simple. And this is a flow to turn a package on or turn a package off on a schedule. So as a background, YMCA HBB offers promotional memberships, which need to be turned on at a specific date and time, and then turned off when the promo is over. And that sounds easy, except I kept forgetting. I would set on an alarm and try and wake up to turn it on at 6 a.m. so people could buy that promo membership. So we built a flow. This is an image of the entire flow. So what you see is the little play button is a scheduled triggered flow. So this flow was set to run once on Saturday, the 1st of April at 7 a.m. And at that date and time, we asked it to update a record, that's the pink box, and to turn on a membership package. Inside that pink box, if you've worked with flows, if you click on the pink box, you get to set up the update records element. So we've specified the conditions when, because we want it to update record of type package, where the package record ID field equals the highlighted Salesforce ID. And where you get the Salesforce ID is we opened the package and grabbed the Salesforce ID out of the URL, and we're able to just paste that directly into the flow. So this flow is hyper simple. It's a scheduled flow that turns on a membership package. There is a second flow that will turn this off on a schedule. And what this allows our team to do is when we set up the promo membership, we can set up both flows and have confidence that they will turn on and then turn off. And no one has to set an alarm for a Saturday morning to turn on or off the membership package. Flow number 2 is registration emails in our childcare program. So this flow sends an email when someone registers for a childcare program. It sends a welcome email if it's a new registration. But because we work with rollover registrations, if it's just a rollover, we still want to send the email because the rollover has triggered some billing, etc. So we just send an update email if it's a rollover registration. And to accomplish this, we use what's called a decision in the flow. So here's a picture of the flow, and this one is another schedule triggered flow. So this runs daily. The frequency is daily. We turned it on the 9th of September, 2022. It looks at the object of registration. And then that sort of yellow-orange street sign is the decision element that decides, is this a non-rollover? Is it a new registration? And we should send the non-rollover registration email. Or is it rollover? And we should send the rollover registration email. So I wanted to show you inside the decision, just to show you how we're telling Salesforce what it means if it's a rollover registration or not. So inside that decision element, we've maybe specified too many things, but what we're asking it to do is if it's a non-rollover registration, so a new registration, we've said that the program could contain PA Day, could contain March break, could contain Kinder, which is a summer licensed childcare program that we offer, or it could contain wait lists. We have people register to wait lists. Probably the only thing we really need is that last line. If it's a non-rollover registration, then we don't care about the rollover instance. So you kind of get lost in a lot of double negatives here, but when we say at the bottom, rollover instance is null, true, what that means is as long as there is an empty null space in the rollover instance field, then it is a non-rollover instance. And so what that allows us to do is just send the right email at the right time to the right people. And then at the bottom of the flow, that update records, we note in Salesforce that an email has been sent. Just makes it cleaner for reporting and knowing who got emails when, etc. Flow number 3 is a waitlist priority sorter. So HBB has begun to treat waitlists with a health equity framework rather than just a first come, first served approach. Of immediate concern was workforce challenges. Probably like all of you, our staff couldn't work if their children didn't have access to childcare. So we created childcare waitlist instances. So you would register for an instance called waitlist with the max registrants equals 0. And we included a form or a prompt group to collect information on the family. We asked, are you a YMCA HBB staff member? Yes or no. Is your child currently enrolled in YMCA HBB childcare? Yes or no. Does your child have a sibling currently enrolled in YMCA HBB childcare? Yes or no. So this flow takes these prompt responses and sorts the wait list. So I'll show you the pieces of that. So the flow itself is a cascading series of decisions. So you get to see the first decision, which is around, is it a staff child? If yes, set the priority to 1. If no, okay, well, are they a current child? If yes, set priority to 2. If no, okay, do they have a child in care? If yes, set priority to 3. So when you fill out the prompt group, this flow sorts your registration into different priority levels. And what that allows us to do is build a report. So this is a glimpse at our childcare waitlist report. Alexander School Age Childcare is one of our centers, and this is the waitlist for that center. And you can see that one person has priority 1, a bunch of people, 5 of them, have priority 2, priority 3, and priority 4. Within that priority section, we preserve the first come, first served date time field, so when they completed the registration. So we can still do first come, first served within a priority group, but we know that this person is getting the first available space because they're the highest priority. So this has helped our childcare team fill spots according to the priorities that we have as an association and the commitments we want to make to our staff and to our current children. Flow number 4 is actually a whole bunch of flows that work together. Rather than show you all the flows, I wanted to talk about what we're trying to achieve at each level of our automations. So the principle being, if you miss a payment, if you have a declined payment at HBB, we're going to send you an email. We're not going to let that just happen and not tell you. We send one email if the missed payment is for an HFA, Health, Fitness, and Aquatics program or membership, something like that. And we send a separate email to our childcare families. When the declined payment happens, Avocado creates an account exception. We trigger the flow on the account exception, and we differentiate what happens based on if the declined payment was from a credit card or from EFT. If it was a credit card, we update the account exception that was generated by Avocado to list the email that we sent, the email address we sent the email to, when it was sent, etc. If it was EFT, we do all of that and we update the account exception to block access. Because with credit cards, we can retry your payment a couple of times without generating NSF fees for you at your bank. We're not going to block you immediately, but with EFT, because we aren't going to rerun your payment without permission, we're going to block your access to the facility so that our staff stop you at the gate and say, hey, there's a declined payment. I can see what it's for. I can see that you got an email. Can we take care of that today? The last piece, or the last flow that interacts with this system, is actually pretty clever and helps to clean up this whole sequence. So when the payment is paid, when they've actually paid this declined payment, we have a flow that resolves the account exception, so it disappears, and it removes any block access. So this sequence of automations really helps us alert our customers when a payment has been missed, make it really apparent to our frontline staff when they pull up the account on screen. They can see when it was missed, what the payment was for, and they can see that we sent an email. So if the email went to the wrong person, that's a good trigger that we should update their email address. And then when the payment is paid, we don't have to have all these lingering account exceptions. So the last flow cleans up the system, resolves the account exceptions, and removes some block access. That last flow, there are some edge cases where that isn't working perfectly, but it grabs about 90% of them. So we're pretty pleased with that sequence. The last flow that I have for you, and then I will pass you to our friends in Philadelphia, is a hold reactivation email. I think this is our newest flow. This uses a custom formula field to calculate days until hold reactivation. So when a member puts their membership on hold, that suspends their membership privileges, but there's an end date. So we use a formula field to count days until the end date of the hold. And then we have a flow that gets triggered 14 days before the hold ends. So 2 weeks before you're due to come back to us, we send you an email. What's clever about it is we send the email from the HFA branch, so it appears to come from your preferred branch. We have 5 different branches and 3 different communities. So it looks like it's coming from your branch, and it CCs the local branch. The flow also selects between different email templates based on your branch and whether or not a contact is assigned to the membership. So our 5 branches give us 10 total templates. The flow updates a hold reminder sent date field in Salesforce, which is helpful for reporting. And this part was really clever. Displays the email as an account exception, so staff in the Avocado menu can directly see the email that was sent on the account details page. So I'll walk you through this. This flow has lots more elements, but it's really nothing you haven't already seen. So this is a scheduled daily flow at the top. It makes a decision on the number of days before the hold is to reactivate. If it's not 14 days, don't do anything. But if it is 14 days, we'll then proceed. So it grabs the membership details and the account details, determines if there's an email address, and then decides if there's a contact assigned to the membership that's on hold, and it sends emails. When the email is sent, the flow also generates an account exception that shows the actual text of the email as it would appear to the person receiving it. So Ben is a staff who built the flow. Philip is our little test case, but this is the email that Philip would have received. Because it comes, because it's specified to Philip's branch, we get to say, contact this exact person or this exact phone number. When this account exception is created, we have it resolved so that if you have a whole family on hold due back in 2 weeks, you don't get a very long scrolling list of these emails. But if you want to see the exact email that was sent to the family, you can just click the Show Resolved checkbox in the Avocado menu. And that is our hold reactivation email. So this flow decides on which email template to send. It sends an email to the customer. It sends an email to the branch staff, so they have it in their inbox. So it just tries to eliminate any chance of miscommunication around, I didn't know I was coming back. Well, that might be true, but we did tell you. So we're trying to use automations to take some work off our staff who used to have to email families individually when they were due to return from holds. And I get to pass you to Liz from Philadelphia, who's going to walk you through the next flow.
Thank you, Adam. So our first flow is for insurance memberships. So at GPY, we sell thousands of insurance memberships every month. And these are individual memberships. So each contact has their own membership. So we don't group them at all like a family would. So just one-on-one, we bill by their exact insurance ID. So this flow kind of helped us with an issue of adjustments. So each insurance member gets certain discounts based on their insurance provider. So these are partnerships that we've created along the way, and certain providers will offer different discounts. Some it's just the free membership, some it's discounts for programs and things like that. So with selling so many memberships per month, we were looking for a way for our staff to not have to add these adjustments manually to each account as they were selling them. So that's where this flow came in. We needed for them to save time. As you know, creating adjustments, there's lots of room for error in the naming convention and picking rules and things associated to them. So it really was about cleaning that up to make sure we're only discounting what we wanted to discount. And mainly a big time saver and self-serve. So once these folks have their membership signed up, these applications and the adjustments are being created, and they can go right ahead and sign them up for their program. So we do program registration every about 8 weeks for HFA, every couple months, we'll say, for different childcare programs. If you don't mind going to the next slide, Adam. So our flow is triggered by an application of membership type being created or updated. So anytime a membership application is created, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look for their subscription. So it's filtering for only our insurance adult, insurance youth, and insurance senior membership subscriptions. So that's part of the original filtering on the record triggered flow. And then it's going to look for the provider. So that's our decision point there. So like I said, different insurance providers offer different discounts to their participants. So we have some folks that just offer membership programs. So some of those are just filtered out completely. But it'll say, okay, you are a Keystone First member, so you can get your Keystone First program discount adjustments. And these are the 6 or 7 rules that are attached to that adjustment. So this way, when the staff is going through, they sell the membership application. As soon as the status is accepted, it's of the type subscription that we have identified in the trigger. By the time they get back to that home screen and hit refresh, all their adjustments are ready, and they can go ahead and sign that swim lesson up for the discounted rate without any issues. That's the biggest piece of this. So it looks, again, it's not very complicated like some of the ones you said, Adam, but if you had to create each one of those like adjustment records on their own for each contact who comes to the desk with like a family of 5, you're talking about, at least a half hour just kind of going through and just doing all these clicks. So it's been a big time saver, not only for our front desk team, but for the folks that are auditing the sales of these memberships, who are then responsible to go back and make corrections. So it's been a big help for us. That's it on the insurance membership adjustments. We do the same flow for adjustments for all types of things. We do full-time staff. So anytime you register someone for a full-time staff membership, our full-time staff get 50% off childcare, for example. So all those adjustments and rules will automatically be created. Part-time staff, and it's just been really helpful. You can kind of once you have something like this built, it's easy to kind of clone and work off of it for the other scenarios that are similar. So that's what we've done for anything that kind of has automatic adjustments being added. That's it. And our next one, I'll kick it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Liz. Good afternoon, everyone. The next flow is just a simple one, and it launches an email based on a registration. So in this case, it sends a welcome email to any registered participant of swim lessons. So we have about 6,400-ish registrations every session in our swim lesson programs, and each one of those folks need to get a welcome email. So across 15 branches, this is saving our aquatic directors a lot of time. So the trigger is just that the status equals registered and the product family is aquatics instructional, and that will kick off the next step of the flow. Adam, if you jump to the next. Great. So the first thing that happens is there's a decision. I always recommend, if you are writing a flow, to email members at a decision if they do not have a valid email address on file. Add a step to create an account exception on their account. So the first stop is if the primary does not have a valid email exception, a valid email, there's going to be an account exception created on the account asking for a valid email. Otherwise, it's going to move on to our next decision point, which breaks down into 3 different email templates based on the program that you're registered in. And if you can imagine all those registrations, the aquatic director would then have to email, not the same email to all the participants, but 3 different emails based on the type of program you're registered in. I use this type of flow a lot for many different kinds of programs we have. It's great when you want to share some information about your programs with participants that they may not have got during the registration process. You need to let them know to bring specific equipment or whatnot. So I focus primarily on programming at GPY, so I use this type of flow all the time. And then, as Adam showed, I also have they creates a record on the account so that we know that that email was sent to that member with the swim lesson welcome email. I do have 2 really quick additional tips, pro tips. Well, the one is just make sure you have maybe add that step for the account exception if there's no valid email. And then the other thing is, if you're in your sandbox and you're testing flows that are going to launch emails, just consider email deliverability, because if you leave it on and you are running tests that are going to launch an email to a member, that email is going to launch. So just think about what you're testing, and if it's really going to launch emails to members, you might want to turn that off while you're testing your flow.
That's a great point. Thank you, Sarah.
And that's it for me. Thanks. Back to you, Adam.
Awesome. And I'm going to steal both of those. Those are clever. The last part of the presentation is just a peek at some of the other automation work we're doing at HPB. Some of it in Salesforce and some of it outside of Salesforce, but using Salesforce data either as the destination for the automation, or we're using Salesforce to do other things. So Salesforce Flows, our most common flow is a flow that maps prompt responses to custom fields that we've built on the application. So we use this honestly dozens of times. It makes reporting a lot easier. If you've ever tried to report on prompt responses, you need to use joined reports, and then your life isn't very happy. But if you map those prompt responses to custom fields on the application through a flow, then you can report on the application and get all of their prompt responses. We send welcome packages to new users by their profile. So this is just an email template that gets sent. But it's once more removing a step that we used to have to do manually. And then we use a lot of age-based triggers tied to various sales, billing, and reporting workflows. so that we're capturing kids who are aging out of subsidies and things like that. Outside of Salesforce, HBB uses the Outlook 365 or Office 365 platform, and one of the tools in our toolbox in that platform is called Power Automate. And Power Automate has enabled us to do a bunch of stuff that we couldn't easily do just with Salesforce. So I know it's like drinking out of a fire hose today, but have some more. We use Power Automate to grab a new members report. So we have a new members report in Salesforce that gets emailed to a folder in OneDrive. Power Automate grabs that report and preps it in an online folder for our marketing team because they use a different platform to send mass emails. And then our new members get a rich image and fancy new member email. And we get open rates and click-through rates and all of that. We use Power Automate to grab website form submissions and then create records in Salesforce for a custom object. So we built a custom object to support our employment program, and job seekers fill out a form on our website. Power Automate helps us grab those responses and shove them into Salesforce, and it works really well. And the last way we use Power Automate is to get around the 15,000 row limit on Salesforce report subscriptions. So thankfully, we have more than 15,000 members, and we want to report every day of who's a member. We could go in and download it every day and we'd get them all, but report subscriptions cap out at 15,000 rows. So we use Power Automate to make a daily API call to Salesforce, pretend you're a machine, grab the report in full and dump it into an online folder. So that has made retention reporting easier for us. How to get help? You can reach out to HBB. We're happy to share and really happy to learn. So I know Andres will share this presentation, but please send us an email, either the group inbox that we use or email me specifically, and we will do our darndest to help you. ChatGPT is fluent in Salesforce, so we commonly use ChatGPT to write formulas for custom formula fields. So that's another place that you can get help. And that, I think, brings us to the end of the presentation.
Well, that was excellent. And I'm just going to share my screen real quick before we end. And of course, I want to thank you, Liz, Sarah, and Adam, for sharing your flows. This was very informative, and I'm sure everyone here would love to implement some of those flows in their own organizations. But before we jump into a Q&A session, I want to highlight our commitment here at TechShare to ensuring your success. And one of the offerings that we are proud to undertake is Avocado will be maintaining a list of custom flows in our repository. So if you have a flow that you created and would like to share, please email it to our support team with a description, and we will add it to our repository list. We will then share it with the Avocado community and also provide a mechanism to install those custom flows into your environment. If you require assistance running those Avocado flows from the repository and customize them to your specific association needs, again, we do have Salesforce certified consulting services available for that. And we want to also make a quick announcement regarding our next user group. And we've heard from many of you interested in learning more about the Nonprofit Success Pack, or NPSP, by Salesforce. The tentative date is Wednesday, July 12th. So stay tuned for more details on that. We want to thank you again all for joining us today. And we want to open the floor for questions and comments about what you learned today.
I had a quick question for Adam. Maybe you covered it, but with the decline, adding the exception to the decline payment on the account, and then saying that it automatically resolves, how quickly does it resolve? Is it sort of instantaneous, or is it overnight?
Yeah, it resolves when the payment schedule item is updated to the status of paid, and it's a record-triggered flow that resolves the account exception. The edge case is if they pay it through the portal, like they log into their portal and pay it separately. That's a different payment schedule item. So in that case, it doesn't automatically update.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because we have the same issue with declines and having to resolve all those notes. So that's very handy. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just have to be questions. If anyone has any statements or things to share as well, please feel free. Michael.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike. If you haven't met me, I'm with the support crew here at TechShare. I wanted to also add in something else, and I may have missed it because I was away for the first 5 minutes or so, but there's another tool built within Flows for when you start building up a long list of flows. It's called Flow Trigger Explorer. It's right on the main page, and it's a really handy tool for managing which objects are being updated when or created and what's happening to them. What that's going to allow you to do when you start working in there is make sure you're not triggering the same thing too many times. That can often cause problems when you're like, say it's a registration record and you've got, when a registration record is updated, if you're triggering 6 different flows at the same time, that could potentially cause you some problems. So you do want to make sure that you keep that in mind for management. And that's right in the setup area. When you go to your flows, there's a little button in the top right corner. So I just thought I'd throw that in there in case nobody happened to mention that at all.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, and I think that's important. One of the things we were running into, Mike, was we didn't understand if, as you said, an object or a record was updated and that triggered several things. We had no control over what happened first or second. So we ended up having to move to a lot of scheduled triggered flows. So do this instantly and then do this once a day, sort of thing.
I think the scheduled path is good for that too. Like just adding like a couple minutes. If you already know that something's triggering or multiple things for creating a contact, just like put the scheduled path, give it 3 minutes, let it run everything that you know is going to happen as soon as it's created, and then do my next step or something like that.
Absolutely. You know, it was said, but I just want to make sure I put a point on it. You know, our goal in asking if you'd like to share your flows and to maintaining that repository is to help share everything you guys are building with each other in the whole community. But if it does make total sense and the person who authored the flow is in agreement, the organization that's providing that flow, we will put that into our package as well, if that makes sense. So if it's a flow that everyone could use, we'll definitely get it into our package so that everyone has that flow available to be turned on.
Matthew, we have a question here from Mike Tate. I'll read it here out loud. Mike says, I'm assuming the answer is yes, but can you have the flows that just run on demand rather than scheduled? We would want to do this for scheduled payments. We need to check the payments prior to an email being sent. So I'm not the expert in flow, so I probably shouldn't be answering this. Maybe Adam or the GPY team. I don't know if you want to take it. I can give you the high level that there's many options to trigger flows. I feel like Liz and Sarah and Adam might know the more technical answer, but I can tell you that you can definitely trigger immediately. You can schedule. What am I missing here? This is
on demand,
not my forte.
Or you can schedule it. Salesforce has some pretty low limits though on the number of records you can run it against when it's not triggered by an update. So you'd have to research that a little bit to make sure that it fits your need.
Anything to add, Adam or team? Sorry, I asked you and then I didn't give you a chance.
Yeah, the only consideration I have is, are you trying to run it on demand from Avocado or from Salesforce? Because Avocado will limit you in how you might kick that off, versus if you're working in Salesforce, you could trigger it several other ways.
Okay. Yeah, I guess there's lots of options is the point in trying to determine what you're trying to accomplish, and then choosing the right option for that is the key. As Rob mentioned, there's limits on scheduling, but we've also experienced with some of our clients, triggering automatically will add that code to the end of our code. So it literally takes whatever Avocado was processing and adds the trigger to the end. So in some of those situations, if you're running a very complicated trigger or flow and you're triggering it, it can hit limits in Salesforce. So that's why testing is really important on that. Well, thank you, everyone. I don't know if you want to, if anyone wants to stick around, they're welcome to. Otherwise, I think this was a really good user group. I appreciate Andreas for organizing this. And for our guest speakers, we're very appreciative for all your time
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
for your sharing with the team. It definitely is going to help everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Liz, Adam, Sarah, everyone. I think a lot of people would appreciate this. And hopefully we can see you on the next one. So I'll keep you posted with that information. Thanks again, everyone. I'll stop the recording right now, and the recording link will be available soon. Thanks again, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Excellent. Good job, Adam.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed